peachydragon.com. Happy creative stuff.
Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of Happy Creative Stuff. How many times can I say that in one evening and really mean it? I don't know. So this is the model that we're working on. You can see I had the final one that's animated, but I think for a change, let's just look at the 360-degree rotation. Okay, so we're going to work on the more complicated parts now, which is the hair. The little heart on the back, I didn't discuss that previously. I simply found one on a free 3D model site and replicated that. So we don't need to talk about how to create a heart. If you wanted, you could use a whole bunch of complicated techniques to model one, but I didn't think it was necessary. Okay, so now to get the top part of the hair and the back, you need to make some choices. Because if you look at this model, with Blossom it makes a lot of sense. With some of the other ones, it doesn't even have a logical piece of hair at the back. So essentially it's a dome with a piece cut out at the back and a piece cut out at the front. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to make the head slightly smaller again than we've had it. That's fine. And then I'm going to make a larger head. So I'm going to, let's use rotation. I'm going to hold shift while rotating and rotate it back to where it was. Oh wait, there's an alt. It didn't work for some strange reason. There we go. If you hold shift while you do it, it allows me to make a copy. So I'm going to make, let's just call it hair. And now I can go back and make this one larger again. I guess I could have just held shift and done that as well. Let's maybe turn off. I think it's because that's turned on. Yeah, so it doesn't snap. Okay, so we've got a sphere that's slightly bigger than the head itself. I'm going to take that sphere. Let's see if that is an editable poly already or not. Okay, no, we're going to turn this into an editable poly because we're about to edit it quite drastically. Convert to editable poly. Now previously what I did is I just made other shapes and cut them into that, and it ended up being a Boolean object, a composite object. We're going to select just the reference images. Let me just get out of the selection again, as stated previously. The reference images, I'm going to hold down Control to select more, and I'm going to select the hair itself, and then we're going to isolate that. So we only have that. I'm going to right click and say isolate selection. There we go. Okay, that just makes it easier for us to work. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate, well, not yet. We are going to duplicate it, but let's do that like so. Same like I did previously, just hold shift and rotate. Make a copy. There we go. Okay, so the cut here is quite a flat cut. So I'm just going to take a simple box, standard primitive box. We're going to draw quite a large box and make sure that it's wider than the head is. And then just make sure that it's located underneath the head. I'm going to rotate it. I might turn off angle snap. I'll probably have to turn off angle snap, and then just get it to align to that there. And now this is a very crude way of doing things, but it works. It's the way I do it in Illustrator. So we're going to select that. And we're going to go, well, the hair. We've got a copy already, I believe. Let me just double check that we have a copy. Yeah, we have a copy. So it's 2 in 1 at the moment. Let's change the color of the one. I'm just going to apply any other material to it so that it looks different. There we go. And I'm going to go over to standard primitives, extended compound objects. Under compound objects, there's one called Boolean. What Boolean allows you to do is add another object and then decide how they interact. So I'm going to say add operandi. I'm going to add the box. So I've got the hair in the box, and with the box selected, you say you want to subtract that. So what you end up with is just that little top bit. I think I just accidentally clicked, just added the plane, so I undid that. Now if I select outside and I deselect and I move this, you'll see that that's what we end up with. I see I put the material on the wrong bit. Let me just turn that back. Let's use, I think this is already applied, but it's fine. Okay, and now we've got the other one. Let's also apply our modeling material to that so we can see. That's what we'll use to get this back part going. So in this case, you know, if you want to be specific and we want exactly that, let's use basically a spline. We'll use a circle spline. I'm going to draw a circle and then change it to an oval later. I think we can just use an ellipse to do that. There we go, ellipse. Okay, so we want this to match those proportions. Let's see how close we can get it. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but close. I think that's close enough. So that's a spline. We're going to have to put an extrude modifier on that. That'll make it push out. Extrude. Okay, now how far do we want it to extrude? Quite a lot. Has to at least be wider than the head. Now we're going to take this hair piece and we're going to also make this a Boolean just like we did with the previous one. I'm going to go to compound object, going to say Boolean, add an operandi, which will be this ellipse that we extruded. Actually, we can convert that to an edit. Well, okay, right now that it's already added, I think it might have been safe to first convert that to an editable poly. In actual fact, let's just undo until before that. Go into that, let's convert it to an editable poly. And then select all of those lines there. They're not polygons and they're not verts. What do you call them? I have no idea. Can't remember. It'll come back to me. And then we'll select connect to just make sure that it has a good geometry. It's always safer to do this before you make your compound Boolean objects. Okay, now that that's done, we'll scroll back up, deselect that. We've got this piece of the hair. It's still a Boolean object. Add operandi, add that. And we want to, this time not subtract this, we want the intersection, the parts of it that's together. Okay. So we've got two objects there. Now they should be perfectly aligned, but they're... Oh, okay, wait, it might just be because of the angle that we're looking at it. Now, these are both Boolean objects. Now I would say... Do I have them both selected now? I do have them both selected. I'm just not sure we want to do that like that exact. So I'm going to deselect everything. I just don't think it would be safe to do that. So what we're going to do is convert. I keep accidentally adding more operandis to this. Let's go back. Okay, there we go. Select an object, convert it to an editable poly. Select the other object, convert it to an editable poly. And now we can do the same thing we just did. We select one, Boolean, and now we're going to combine the two of them. Add operandi. Add that one, and now we're going to merge those two. And then I'd like to also convert that to an editable poly so that it's final. Okay, so if we scroll around this model, you'll see that that's pretty much like the hair cap segment. Now if you look at Blossom's hair, especially if we hide this and turn off edged faces, you'll see that she has these 3 gaps cut into the hair there. So we're going to do this super low tech. Still, it's very much the way that I would work in Illustrator. I'm just going to create a triangle. Like I said, this is super low tech. It's a very strange way of doing things, but I guess it works. Okay, let's just do it with a box. It'll work with a box as well. In the front view, I'm going to create a box. Okay, we're going to make it, doesn't have to be too long. All it needs to do is go into the forehead far enough. I'm just going to align it to the angle of that cut. I think that makes sense to do. I'm going to push it into the forehead there. We're going to convert this to an editable poly. And now what I want to do is I want to take these verts and weld them together so that we end up with a triangle. You could have also drawn a triangle with the pen tool. There are many ways to do this. It all depends on what you're most comfortable with. Okay, now I'm first going to be looking for the weld property because I know how this goes. There should be a target weld somewhere. Target weld. I think I have to click and drag. Can't necessarily remember. There we go, that works. And then the same with the two at the back. Okay, now the problem is if you look from the front, you'll see your triangle is all skewed. So let's make sure to fix that. Turn off target weld and select those 2 points. And I'm going to select view so that I'm sure I have it on the right axis. And I want to move that to the exact center. Might not be the exact center, but if you can't tell with your eye, I think it's close enough for this case. My problem is the whole triangle isn't in the center. Let me just deselect the verts. Easy way to see the center is to look at where that sphere meets at the top. Okay, that seems to be fine. Pretty happy with that. So we've got the triangle sticking out, and that'll essentially, as you can just see, I'm comparing it to the image there. You can see the shape that it's going to cut out. So I'm going to do that with the Boolean again, but let's cut 3 different shapes to make, so we have, she's got 1 gap and then 2 gaps on the side. So let's take this. I'm going to move the anchor point back like we did previously by selecting Effect Pivot Point Only. Oh, there we go, that's why. I'm going to move it to the middle of the head. Good, and turn it off. And with Rotate selected, if I hold down Shift and I rotate, you see what it does. It gives me a perfect angle there. So I'm going to make a copy, and then I'm going to make another copy on the other side. I should have checked what my measurements were so that I can make it perfect, but that's fine. Okay, so now might as well create 1 object out of the 3 of these. Let's go to our extended or compound objects. Okay, it doesn't want us to select make a Boolean. Not sure why. Let's see. Okay, it's not allowing us to make a Boolean of this. Oh, there we go. Maybe it doesn't want to. I think it's because they don't combine in the right way. So let's just take the head, the hair model. I mean, it's an editable poly. Let's go to Boolean, and then we're going to subtract objects. So let's add all 3 of these operandis. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to set all of them to subtract. Okay, so if you look at the model that we end up with, let's turn up the opacity on this modeling material. Like, that's really not bad. I know it looks strange now when you can see the inside, but as soon as you add the head to it, it's going to be normal. I do think, okay, there shouldn't be a gap there. So maybe we need to fix that. That shouldn't normally be a problem, but now that it is a problem, we'll figure out how to fix it. Okay, so this might seem like a bit of a crude solution, but this didn't happen the first time I did it, but now that it's happened, let's try and fix it. So I converted this object to an editable poly. There's an option here to select borders, so that's only for holes. So I'm going to select those borders, and then there's an option if you find it, we just scroll to find it, where you say cap. So what cap does is it just tries to fill that gap. Now this didn't work very well because it's a complicated shape. So to help that, we're just going to select edges, and we're going to use the cut function to just divide this up a little bit, so that I think if we do that, it's already going to give it a much more logical shape. And then let's perhaps just take the center of each of those cuts, so that one like that, and just connect it to some other. I think I messed up there. Let me just redo that one. You really want to make the planes fold in a logical way. As you can see here, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Gee, I had to make sure that it had this small icon there, otherwise I was selecting the wrong area. There we go. Select that. Okay, I'm right clicking to deselect the cut feature. Now when we rotate, I think that's not perfect, but that's good enough for what we want to do. Once you put the face in there, you're not even going to notice. So if I exited the isolation mode, well, it's still in isolation mode. There we go. You can see the head fits into that hair quite nicely. If I wanted, I could make the hair larger or the head smaller. If I wanted to exaggerate the effect a bit. Okay, that didn't work. Let's just redo that. I think it's because I was still inside the one polygon. I do this here. So I can make the head slightly smaller to pronounce the hair effect more. That's not too bad. Okay, I'm going to put the second part of the hair in a separate video since this one has been going quite long. So get ready for Blossom's hair part 2. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, tell us what you think, click the like button below. Otherwise, you can follow us and send us messages on our Facebook pages. We've got 2 of them, our Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, or our traditional websites if you like that kind of thing.
This video is awesome. PeachyDragon.com. Happy creative stuff.